So we will be putting this recording out on the our help desk portal, and the materials are already posted at hmis.cohio.org. I can show you that soon where I put that. So at the end of the webinar, you should have an idea of what is changing exactly and who this will affect. And you will have seen a live demonstration of how to run the new report in Service Point. I'm going to cover all the changes that the report brings us, including the data quality checks part. And then for CoC funded projects, we have we're going to sort of reserve the end of the webinar for CoC funded projects so that anyone that's on this webinar that is not CoC funded can, if you want, you can exit the webinar, and that way that all the things that we need to cover for CoC funded projects won't confuse the other folks. And so we're going to sort of show you how to get training on SAGE and all that applies to the CoC funded projects. So who uses the old report that, well, the CoC APR? The 0625 is the report that is in ART, and it has been for years. So basically, the people who rely on this report, the agencies that rely on this report, are CoC funded projects that submit APRs to HUD annually. Also, any projects that are funded by any other funder that also requires an APR for either monitoring or your applications. We don't know who all of those funders are, but a couple of examples are ODSA and the VA. And also, and just so you folks in Balance the State knows, we have been, the HMIS CoHio team has been being the system administrator for the Mahoning CoC as well. And so the Mahoning CoC, all of the agencies on in that CoC use the APR because you'll use that for your performance and outcomes goals. Whereas on the Balance of State side, we use a custom report called the QPR. So, and then on top of all of that, this report is also used by some unfunded projects in the Balance of State for local planning purposes. So it's a pretty important report, and that's why we wanted to go over this today for everybody. So this is just sort of a reminder as to what the APR has looked like over the past however many years that it's been in ART. It has the various tabs, and this is what it looks like once you've exported it to a PDF. You can still access this report in ART. It is quickly becoming obsolete, but right now it's still live and works correctly. It will remain available in both HMIS implementations until later this year. Well, until we move to version 6 probably. So yeah, so that's what the old report looks like. So the new APR looks like this. Well, that's the prompt for it. You notice it's not in ART anymore. And to run it, I'm going to do a demo later, but you basically log into Service Point, go to the triangle next to Reports, and then click CoC APR, and you can see it circled in red there. And then over in the prompts, you choose which project you're running it on. And one thing to note is when you run this, you want to use your literal date range. So if you're running it on a year's worth of data, if it's on the calendar year, say, you'll run it January 1st to December 31st. Unlike in ART where you would run it from January 1st of one year to January 1st of the next year. So that's something to be really careful of. That can throw your numbers a little bit if you get that wrong. And then you choose your entry exit type and you'll build report. So we're going to demo this in a minute, but first I wanted to cover sort of the advantages of the new APR. It's much faster than running an art report, but you notice I chose a very modest, simple symbol for fastness because it's only modestly faster, but it is faster, and it is definitely an advantage. Another major advantage is that any corrections that you make to your data reflect immediately in this report. So there's no day lag, whereas you used to run it in art and then you would make some changes and you would have to wait for the next day to see how the report turned out. That situation will go away. Also, the APR detail, the 0631, if y'all are familiar with that, is no longer needed because you can click on the numbers within the report to get which client IDs are being counted where. Also, there are two new features which we'll cover in a second here. One's called Use Previous Parameters, and the other one's called Highlight Clients. So I'm just going to switch over to the demo. Oops. So I'm going to come to the APR, like we talked about. I'm going to search for my provider. And this is just a demo type of provider that we have on the live site, and there's only a few clients in there that are also demo. And so this program date range, as I just said before, you would make sure that it's your literal date range. So you're going to make it like this, 1/1/2016 to 12/31/2016. And then you're going to select your entry exit type and do build report. And see, it's faster. But this is what the report looks like. It's very long, like it's long. So there's a lot here. But you can click on the numbers like this and tell which client IDs are being counted there. And then you can download your results. And it'll just download it to a CSV file for you. So if you have a large number here, that's really useful. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I would say if you're going to use that download feature where you have a number item that's got a lot of names in the list, if you download that file, which gives you a CSV file, which you could open up in Excel and work with, make sure that you delete that file when you're not using it anymore because it does contain client names in it, and also make sure not to email that file back and forth to anybody with those lists of names.
Thanks, Matt. So another feature that I wanted to talk about was, so if you are CoC funded and you're going to be uploading your report into Sage, once you've run it and you've got your report to where it looks correct to you, which will take probably some time, but let's say you're to that point, then you can come up here to the download button and it will ask you what you want to do. What you want to do is save the file. Excuse me. And it will save it however you have told your browser that you want to save downloads. So it'll probably throw it in your downloads folder. You can generally find where your downloads go, like from the browser itself. And you can see it saves a zip file to your computer. And that's what you would wind up uploading to Sage. And that's mostly just going to apply to CoC-funded agencies. So that's how that works.
And I'm going to interject here too. That file is does not contain client names, client socials, client dates of birth. It's a copy of the APR, which is all just statistical information. So for whatever reason, if you needed to, you could email that file, say like you ran it and emailed it to the person that uses Sage. That would be a safe file.
Right. Yeah. And also, if you go inside that zip file and you try to open some of those files, it's not going to work correctly. So it's best to be sure that you have your data all correct on your APR and just download it as it comes out of HMIS. I mean, upload it as it comes out of HMIS. Excuse me. So the other feature that I wanted to cover is this feature that says highlight clients. So if you are trying to troubleshoot something and figure out what, like why, like what clients are being counted, and like let's say your total number of persons served, you can put in a client ID and click highlight clients, and it'll show every number that client ID is a part of, is being, where they're being counted. And you can do it for multiple clients. So if you wanted to look, if you wanted it to highlight for 2 different clients, or however many clients you wanted, let's say everybody in a household or something, you could just put in a comma and then the second client ID, and then it'll start highlighting, you know, everywhere where either of those clients show up. So, and to clear the highlighting, you just need to build report. You should just click build report again, and that's how that works. I think I'm just going to do that. So let's say you don't know your client IDs necessarily. You can go to client search and search for them this way, and they'll show up. Yeah, but that is a pretty safe bet, right? That there wouldn't be anybody named that.
Was it Vi and then last name Spadat?
Okay. Let's just not take the chance.
It is. It's Vi Spadat. Oh, first name Vi, but Violet.
Is it? Because one of them was baby and one of them, I don't know. Right. Anyway, you can.
Baby Spadat.
Oh, okay. Right, so you can search for your client by name and then add them here, and then you can sort of stay in that loop and continue to add them in. And then when you exit, right, it will just add those client IDs with the comma there for you. And then you can do highlight clients.
It actually did it.
It actually did it.
Oh, you don't need to click highlight clients. So that's how that feature works. I think that's pretty nice. The other good feature is about this new one is this use previous parameters button. So if I were to go to Client Point and look up a client and make a correction and then come back to the report, I can click use previous parameters, and it just puts everything that I just did back in there so that I don't have to worry about it or fat finger a year and now everything's wrong and why am I doing this kind of thing. So that's really handy. So those are those 2 features. You might be wondering about printing, because printing is possible but clumsy out of this this report. So basically, if you click Control P in your browser, what about Max? Is it flower P?
Yeah, the command. Yeah,
No, command P.
No, that's what I call it too. We call it flower.
I have to look. So yeah.
Okay. So there's no print button though. is the issue, right? You have to.
Well, depends on the web browser. So you either have to go to that sandwich icon. If it's in Firefox or Chrome, you have to go to the gear thing, or if you're in Internet Explorer, you can go to the file menu, and that's where print is. But one of the web browsers, there's not a print. You have to do Control P.
Okay. So Control P if you're on Windows. And this will print. So I don't have any printers set up on this laptop here, but I would probably want to print it to PDF anyway. So you can do this Microsoft print to PDF. This is just how I happen to have it set up here. If you find that you're not able to print your APR with the way your computer is set up, you can put it in a case and we'll try to help you through that. But this is how the printing is going to turn out. I'll show you what it turns out like. It's not really that bad. So you can see it has the sort of URL up there, and it gives you what parameters you chose to run the report, and then it starts with the whole report. And it's just every page has a different, and the reason I say it's clumsy is it just kind of cuts off unceremoniously between questions, right? So like this destinations thing is just, straight from one page to the other, and that's just how it is. But you can print it, and you can print it to a PDF, and you can send it to your grant manager or whoever is asking for it if that's what they need. And you can also do the same for sending it to a printer. Oh yeah, and then so to run it on multiple providers, I know that isn't really common to do for the APR, but if you have need of doing that, it's not as obvious as to how to do that as it is in art. So either you can.
They would have to, their EDA would have to include the agency level, and then they would choose this provider and its subordinates.
Right, but if it doesn't, it's almost like if you need to do that, you should email hmis@gohio.org, and we would set you up a reporting group.
One difference I'll mention here while you're sitting with the mouse pointer right there is where, because you're an administrator, when you run this report, you have to click search and go through the whole list of 1,000 projects to pick what you want to run the report on.
Yes.
But for all the users who are on the phone call, when you go to run this report, it's just going to be that drop list that opens up and has the 1, 2, or 5 different projects that you can see, and you just pick it from the list. That's different for us where we have to pick it out of 1,000 different things. So it might just be still even easier for you all to run these reports. Yes. But if your default or your EDA includes your agency level, you could pick it and then pick this provider and its subordinates, and it would run it and include all of the data from all of your projects.
So like if we wanted to, if it was right, and then so I could just choose, so like everything.
We would include the RRH and the HP.
Yeah.
And if they had a shelter, kind of, like something like that.
Right. So, and you can tell that it's the parent provider because it doesn't have like the dash PSH at the end, and it doesn't have an icon here that it uses service point. So anyway, if you need extra help with that, please just let us know, and we don't want to dwell on this kind of a off-roading on the APR. So I think that's all for the demo that I can think of. Are there any questions coming through that are like, wait, what? Okay. So I want to go back to the slides, and the next thing I wanted to talk about is the disadvantages of the new APR. The first being that it's brand new, and we have already run into a couple of things that have been a problem, and we're working on those. I'll get to more details about that in a second, but there's going to be problems with any new report, whether it's from the HUD side or from MetaWare side, and the that everything is working okay. What?
Sorry. Oh, good. Those questions weren't scrolling, and
Oh.
so I thought I had, but there wasn't that many.
Okay.
We did get someone saying they were having an issue with sound, though. So if anyone else is having an issue with sound, let us know.
Was that just a second ago?
It doesn't give me the time.
Okay. Okay. Then I'll just continue.
Yes. Sorry.
Okay. So the other disadvantage is, like some of the other service point reports, if y'all are familiar, you can't click through to the client's data from the report. So I don't know if you noticed that when we were inside that, the sort of download section of when you click on a number and you can see the client IDs and names, there is no magnifying glass, so that it, that would take you to the entry exit. You just have to get right back out and look up the client and come back to the report. But at least there's use previous parameters there to help you get back into the report quickly. And then the other two disadvantages are that it's trickier but possible to run this report on multiple providers at the same time, and it's trickier but possible to print or save to PDF. So just to talk about data quality in general for both CoCs, I know for the balance of state, we've been using the data quality, some version of the data quality all workflows report for years now. We've sort of built up a lot of very thorough things to, list of things to check. Mahoney has started to use that report as well, so we have both CoCs using that. That is not changing. The HUD has recently released a data quality framework because a lot of CoCs were very frustrated with the lack of clarity on, what kinds of things should be checked for in terms of data quality. How are we to code that from vendor to vendor? If it's not the same, how are we making sure that our customers are getting what they need? And so HUD kind of got wise to that, and they put out this data quality framework. And what they're going to use it for is they will include pieces of that in various HUD reporting to come. And for the first time we're seeing it in a report is this CoC APR. So the question then is, so what about the data quality report we're already using? So basically the plan is I'm going to be adding anything that wasn't already being checked for, or it was being checked for but in a different way. We're going to modify the data quality report to catch everything that is in the data quality framework that HUD has put out. And that is not done yet because it just came out, a couple of weeks ago. So, but that is the plan. And so for now, we are going to use the data quality reports are still, what they always were. We're going to use that for everything, but you might see some things in the data quality portion of the APR that you're not seeing on the data quality report. And we're just going to sort of show you how to manage that. So in the old APR, if you remember in the 625 from ART, there was only one section dedicated to the data quality, and all it really checked for was missing or don't know refused on the data elements that were required. So in the new APR, though, you can see it looks a lot more complicated. And we're going to just, because of that, we're just going to go through each of these sections one by one so that you're clear on what they all mean. So I'll start with the personally identifiable information piece, and it's 6A. So basically, this is all this stuff is on your Missing in DKR 1 tab on the Data Quality All Workflows report. They have either missing or don't know refused, and then the data issues. So this would line up, if you're thinking about data issues, this would sort of line up when you see like incorrect on your data quality report. So if you have like a person in your project that's 122 years old, that might show up as incorrect. And it would here as well. And I'm going to come back to that just for a second. But at first I want to just point out that we definitely want to aim at zeros in the information column and in the data issues column. But HUD knows that there's going to be a certain number, hopefully low, of clients that are, saying they don't know the answer or they're refusing to answer. So when you're looking at your data quality on the APR, just remember that you're not trying to get all zeros. You want your data to be accurate. But to come back to the date of birth data issues, we have put in a question to HUD because they have, a couple of years ago, they issued guidance that when a baby is born into a program stay, the baby's entry date can be the date of birth, so they can equal the date of birth. However, in contradiction to that, HUD put into their list of things to consider a data issue if the date of birth and the entry date are the same. It shows up as a data issue. So we have put in a question to HUD, which they have to answer by law. So yeah, but we don't know when we're going to get an answer. They're going to have to bend on one of those. So anyway, so these are the kinds of things that are going to come up. And so we just need, as you find these things that you're not sure why you have a client showing in one of these, just send us a ticket and we will get to the bottom of it. The next one is the universal data elements. And so I'm just going to go through a couple of things. The veteran status counts as an error if the data is missing or if a minor is marked as being a veteran. And then the project entry date is really, think of that as duplicate entry exits. It's not obvious that that's what that means, but that is what if you ever have an error under project entry date, you want to check your duplicate entry exits tab on your data quality report, or you could just check it, I guess, in the report. But anyway, and then relationship to head of household errors, you would find those on the missing head of household, any of the household tabs in the data quality report. Any of these are just, really everything here should be in the data quality report somewhere. So the next one is for income and housing data quality. So just so you understand, HUD is counting an error for any destination that's not a real destination. So regardless of if it's don't know or refused or no exit interview or data not collected, they're all going to show the same. And they're expecting numbers there because they know that we're not able to collect destination every single time a client leaves. So just know that that's the case. And then the income is just in your data quality report, should be there. But I'm going to be going through that and checking. I think we have found that there are usually clients here that are not in the data quality report, but we're going to be remedying that as soon as we can. So this table is meant to look at all the data elements required to determine chronicity. However, it does not look at disabilities, which is used to determine chronicity. But it's basically looking at your length of time homeless questions. Yeah, and yeah, anything that shows here is probably just going to be on the missing in DKR2 tab of the data quality all workflows report. And then for 6E, is that 6E? This is just basically from your desk time report, but it's also checking how long it's taking you to exit your clients. So the desk time report only looks at how long it's taking you to enter your clients, and this is looking at both. And it's always been in our standards that you enter and exit clients within 5 days of their entry or exit. So
I'll pipe in on this one because we talked about this on Friday too.
mm-hmm.
So we've been looking at the desk time for a couple of years. The grant managers have been using that as a tool for the monitoring visits, but HUD is now incorporating it into the APR to be looking at it. And so because the balance of state has 5-day desk time expectations, 5 days or less, you should be expecting to see all of your client entries showing up in the first 3 boxes down the number of project entry records for up from 0 to 1 to 3 to in the middle of 4, 5, and 6. As a general rule, that's where you should be expecting to see your numbers. And you may, if you're having anomalies or support issues or things that have changed, you'll find them in some of the other boxes, but you will start to see those first 3 numbers populate as a way that HUD is also monitoring the timeliness of data entry for all clients being entered into any HMIS system as a part of the new CoC APR.
Right. It's also worth it to note that they're looking at it differently. Like we have been looking at the median and we're showing your average and your maxes, but they're just counting how many of your clients were entered within how many days. So it's just a different way of looking at it.
Yeah.
But we're still going to keep looking at your medians.
Well, that's part of the data quality.
Right. So let's see. This is all sort of things that we've already just said. And I just wanted to point out too that just because the data quality section on your APR looks good does not mean that there won't be problems on your APR. So it's still important that everything on your data quality all workflows report is completely sorted out before you submit your APR to any funder. And then the other changes to the APR, because there is a whole host of other questions besides just data quality. So this is just a summary of some of the things that have changed. They've moved some questions, combined them, or dropped them entirely. One in particular that was dropped is the average number of persons served each night, and also 36 is gone. They've split out health insurance data from the non-cash benefits, so we get that data now. Also, they've added sections for veterans and chronic and youth, which is great because we needed that as a CoC. So now we're going to sort of take some time for questions, and just to point out, like, what we've covered so far is, who will need the APR, how to run it, and how to look at sort of the things that you will find in the data quality section and any other section. And so if you're CoC funded, you want to hold your questions, or if your questions are about SAGE or anything about submitting to SAGE, you want to hold those questions to the end. But anyway, are there any questions, Amanda, that you feel we should talk about?
Just No, I'm pretty much just taking them as they come in. Just maybe reiterate the relationship between the data quality stuff on the APR and your report.
Okay.
I'll go over that one more time.
Okay. So we're still using the data quality all workflows report for all of our data quality checking. Like that is the way you're going to check your data quality. So then if you need to run an APR and you find that you are showing your data quality report is all cleaned up, say, and you run your APR and you see some things in the data quality section that you were surprised about because nothing showed on your data quality report, you want to look at what client IDs they are, see if you can figure it out, like what's wrong, and send us a ticket about it so that we are aware and we can help you find out what it is. And just know that we're working on getting the data quality report so that that won't happen. So like the end goal here is to get it so that if you have your data quality report all sorted out and it all looks good, you're not going to have any surprises on your APR. But right now, it's not aligned yet, but it will be. Is that okay? Nothing else?
No, I just remind everybody that there's no limit to art licenses now. So if you have staff who need art, I didn't automatically add them to everybody because if you're not using it, then it's extra work for me that isn't necessary if someone's not using it. But if you don't have art and you want it, or you have staff that don't have it and need it, just email hmis@ohio.org and let us know, and we'll add it.
Okay, so the rest of the webinar is going to be mostly relevant to CoC funded projects. Any non-CoC funded projects, if you want to stay the rest of the webinar, of course, stay on, but you might find a lot of this to be not relevant to you. So we're going to go forward now into things that mostly apply to CoC funded projects. And this is really an important piece for the CoC funded projects, is to be connected to the information that you need to stay on top of sort of what is going on with HUD and with whatever CoC you're involved with if it's the balance of state or if it's Youngstown. You know, we always need to be connected and know what's happening. So you're on HUD's website. They have a list. They have a lot of listservs, but one of them is CoC Continuous Care Program. And that is one you definitely, everybody on this part of the webinar should be a part of and reading what comes through. Because I think they've been emailing about this new APR for a while and about stage and when all the trainings are and all this. And this only applies to the balance of state. I'm not sure, Mahoning, if there's a CoC listserv at this time, but anyway, for the balance of state there is, and if you are not getting balance of state CoC listserv messages, you should email the email address on the screen, ohioboscoc@cohio.org, and ask to be added. And the way you would know if you're getting those is in the subject it would say Ohio BOSCOC. And then you should be on our listserv too, and if you're in the balance of state HMIS, you would be on that listserv, and if you're in the Youngstown HMIS, you would be on the Mahoning HMIS listserv. So we automatically add new users to these lists, but if you're not a user and you want to know what's going on in HMIS land and the CoC that you're associated with, you are certainly welcome to be on our listserv. Just email us and let us know, and we'll add you. So just to talk a bit about the funding and HUD's role in all of this. If you're CoC funded, that means that HUD is your funder, is one of your funders probably. And so HUD has created and continues to define HMIS's specifications, right? They invented HMIS. They continue to define what it is and what we're supposed to collect, even with the federal partners. Everything comes through HUD, even if it's been sort of met about and decided upon between HUD and the VA or HUD and HHS or whatever it is. So that all comes from HUD. They also create and continue to find many of the reports that come out of HMIS, and they turn around and sort of require those reports to be submitted to maintain your funding. One of those reports is the CoC APR, and you have to submit that, within 90 days of your grant end. So that's sort of, in case you know this, you'll probably all knew that. It's just to lay the groundwork. So this change, though, as to how you've been submitting APRs in the past is sort of what we're aiming to talk about here. So submitting your new APR, the previous to April 1st, the way to submit your APR was through eSNAP. And if you have already started an APR in eSNAPs, you'll need to continue to finish that submission in eSNAPs. And in order to do that, you're going to be using the old 0625 HUD CoC APR, the one in ART. So anything that's already been initiated in the eSNAPs will have to be finished in eSNAPs. So any APR submission that was not initiated in eSNAPs by April 1st will have to be initiated in the new system called SAGE. And anything submitted through SAGE will have to use a new CoC APR. And so it's not about due date so much as when you initiated the submission of your APR. So this is kind of a repeat. So even if you're overdue on your APR, and like your APR was due prior to April 1st, if you hadn't initiated your APR in eSNAPs, you will have to submit it into SAGE using the new one, the new APR. Okay, well, we were talking about SAGE accounts, so I was going to let Barbara talk about that a bit.
I hope I wasn't the bad omen here.
No.
So hopefully you've all received, or at least someone in your association who, at your agency, who has the, as Janelle was talking about, is on the general balance of state listserv. That person should have received information about logging into SAGE and setting up an account. And I think it's www.sage.org/info. But if you can't, and again, it's either you or someone else at your agency doesn't have access to that information, we can get that to you. But you need to go in there, and someone from your agency, and I'll define who someone is, needs to go in and register for a SAGE account, which will allow your agency to submit their APR. Mm-hmm. That person needs to be the person who is listed as the contact person in your most recent CoC grant application. So when you go in there, and because I'm on the other side of it, I'm not registering for an account like you are, but when you go in there, I think it should walk you through it. You're going to be able to, the person who, again, is the contact, will be able to register with their email, set up, I think, a temporary password, and then you'll, I think, change your, to a new password. So I think it walks you through it pretty easily. and that person is going to go in there and basically request that an account be set up for them. And Janelle, I know she sent out to all of you on the HMIS listserv a link to a video that shows you, that HUD produced, that shows you how to set up your account. It's also on the HUD Exchange too, so you should be able to find that easily.
It's right here. This number
Great.
1 in there, the
Okay.
top number 1.
Yeah. So that really will walk you through the process. And again, as I said, the person who is listed as the contact on the most recent CoC application is the person that needs to set up that account. And that should pre-populate the information in Sage. That person's name should populate as the existing contact person. So you're going to go in and you're going to register for your account, and then you're in a holding pattern until we, the CoC staff, approve that. We're going to see the request for your account to be set up, and we're going to approve it, and then you should get an email either saying that we approved it or rejected it. There probably wouldn't be too many instances why we would reject it unless you made a wrong selection. For instance, we had somebody not select their own agency name, but they selected the Ohio Development Services Agency as the agency name. If we do reject your account, I'm going to follow up with an email just to let you know why, so that you can go in and correct it. The other thing I want to say is that when I originally went into Sage to start learning to use it myself and to start approving users, there were some glitches with it, and people who had requested accounts were disappearing. Their names and the requests were disappearing. So if your agency thinks that you have, if the person in your agency thinks that you have requested to set up an account and you haven't heard anything back, you haven't gotten an email from Sage, from HUD saying that your account has been approved, go in and register again. And if by chance there are still glitches and you haven't heard, because I may not know that, I may not know that you tried to register. If you don't hear anything back, if you don't get an approval or hear back from me within 5 days, go in and contact HUD. Like I said, I may not know on this end if you've tried to register and you know, I may not get the request because of the glitches. So I think that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, but let us know if you can't get it, if you can't get registered. Let us know. We'll walk you through it just like we will in how to run the APR and submit it.
Yep. Okay, good. Thanks, Barbara. So that being step 1, if you're in your holding pattern, as Barbara called it, or if you've already got it set up, great. But once you've sort of started that process, you want to work on cleaning up your data quality all workflows report. And once that is all sorted out, then you would go in and run the new CoC APR in Service Point. You want to check that the data looks to be accurate as to the number of clients served, etc. And you have all your your disabilities where you're thinking they should be, and all the other things like this. And also check that your data quality sections are as expected. And if there is anything unexpected, then clean that up and work with us on that. And then once you've done that, you will just download it from Service Point, like I demonstrated earlier, and then upload that zip file into Sage, and then that's all sort of on HUD side after that. Like any questions you have about Sage or anything beyond this point would be more of a HUD question. But so that's sort of how it is from the HMIS point of view. So and I know I kind of flipped forward on this for a second earlier, but yeah, so HUD maintains that Sage system, and any questions about Sage would be directed to HUD. This presentation is on our site so that you can, we already emailed about these trainings, but if you want to get these links from this presentation, then that will be out on, here I'll show you, on our sort of help desk page. If you just go to reporting and service point reports and CoC APR, this PowerPoint that we're using right now is right there, so you can download it that way. And so they've already done a couple of things, like trainings that you can access that are on video. So you can go watch those right now if you wanted to. Or you could register. There's a SAGE training that's happening both tomorrow and the next day. They're the same training, but just on different days. So you don't need to register for both of them. But, and this is the link where you would register to go do that if you're not already registered. So where are we on questions at this point, Amanda?
Nothing.
Okay. Well, good. I think we've got it. All the information is here. If anyone needs anything, and of course we're always available for questions. And anything else, Matt?
I don't have anything else.
Okay. All right then. I guess we're going to stop the recording and upload that in the next couple of days.